Well, I am a big fan of getting in front of one-to-many, and a lot of people talk about Zoom fatigue, but there are plenty of stages out there. There are networking events that all went online. I know churches that have gone online. I know, and many, many churches that have gone online. I know daycare centers that have gone online to be able to give interaction to people. So being able to be seen and heard in a group is a very powerful connector. And when you're an entrepreneur, getting seen and heard is very, very important. I believe that if you're not being seen, you're being overlooked. And if you're not being heard, your message isn't getting out there. And if you're not clear on your message, then it won't have the contribution you were supposed to make before you leave this earth. So there are stages that are podcasts just like this that are being consumed and gobbled up by the consumers right now, because this is a great way to get information without being able to visit a library, right? There are people who are doing networking events on Zoom. So podcasts, radio shows, TV shows, web summits, webinars. I host a quarterly web summit that puts 36 entrepreneurs on a stage to be able to share who they are and how they show up in the world. And that can be a very powerful way to leave an impact even when you're restricted in your travel.
This is the Play Your Position podcast, where we huddle up, call the plays, and inspire you to run your ball into the end zone. Are you ready to score more game-winning touchdowns in your life, business, and career? Then listen up, because it's game time, baby. Now, here's your host, Mary Lou Kaiser.
Hello, Team PYP. Mary Lou Kaiser here. It is game day at the Play Your Position podcast. And as usual, I have an awesome guest. She is our starting quarterback today and is suited up, ready to take us into her world. Her name is Kimberly Crowe. Kimberly, are you ready for kickoff?
I'm so ready, Mary Lou. Glad to be here.
Yes, I am glad too. So team, here's some things I know about Kimberly. First of all, she is a master connector. She helps get entrepreneurs the stages and connections they need to stop being overlooked and massively grow their revenue and reach. She is an award-winning international inspirational public speaker, a best-selling author, an audiobook producer, and 6-time entrepreneur. She founded Entrepreneurs Rocket Fuel, which is an active community of entrepreneurs who are looking to contribute, connect, and grow with other entrepreneurs. On a personal level, she is the mother of 2 and an adventure seeker. She has hiked sections of the Pacific Crest Trail, navigated Class 4 rapids with one of Costa Rica's female Olympic medal-winning whitewater champions. Wow. And sailed down the coast of Mexico on a 42-foot sailboat. She really specializes in turning dreams into reality and is going to take us into the world of using the internet to grow our reach, visibility, and make a bigger impact. So Kimberly, welcome to the show.
Super glad to be here, Mary Lou. That was amazing. Thank you for that fantastic introduction and well incorporated.
Well, there you go. Well, we are about adventure here and stepping onto life's great playing field, which is my first question out of the gate. Because you are today's starting quarterback, Kimberly, would you please describe for listeners when you got the call to leadership and what it's like to be you these days as you play your current position?
So I actually did what many of your listeners may have done when I graduated from college. I went right into corporate to get what they call a good job, right? I started at the bottom and I worked my way up and I was a team player like none other. I did what they told me to do so that I could rise through the ranks and eventually became an executive director at a Fortune 1000 company. I was there for 17 years. I say about 15 of them were great. The last 2, not so much. I had done what many of your listeners may have done. I actually climbed directly up the ladder into golden handcuffs. I had definitely gotten that experience where you go into work every day and you're like, wow, I'm making a lot of money and they're paying me really well and I'm really good at this one thing and managing this, but I don't want to do it anymore. I really, really do not. It took me about 2 years of trying to resign before I actually took it back. And they brought me back a few times. And finally, I trained my replacement and we parted as friends. It was actually a really great ending to a really good career. And then I decided to be full-time entrepreneur. And I went to my friends and family and said, hey, what do you think I should do as a full-time entrepreneur? Now, my family did believe in entrepreneurship and I had some businesses on the side. So I did know what I was getting into. And my friends and family said, oh, well, you were so good at what you did at corporate. Why don't you just do that? You'd crush it. And I thought, great idea. So I set about building a business, doing what I was really good at. And my goal—
Which was what? What were you really good at that point?
Actually, in the world of staffing, so technical staffing specifically, designers, drafters, people who did software creatives, and putting them to work at large organizations. And I had a staff. I grew very large very quickly and built it to my goal of $1 million. And about 18 months later, I turned around and I had $1 million in revenue, which is not $1 million in profit, but $1 million in revenue. And all of a sudden, at really the 18-month mark, I hit this personal development wall. I felt like I'd been run over by a truck. I didn't want to do it, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. And I realized that I just did not want to do this anymore. And I had realized that I had busily jumped off this corporate ladder doing exactly this, only to rebuild it myself. And I had built not just golden handcuffs, but a golden jail cell.
Wow.
But now I had employees and I was responsible for their paychecks. I had contracts. I had clients. I had vendors. I had a large organization that I was now responsible for running, and I didn't want to do it anymore. And so, as Brene Brown says, I had a spiritual awakening / breakdown.
Yes.
And I went to the top of a mountain to figure out what I had done wrong. And lo and behold, it was not on the top of the mountaintop that I found the answer. But when I got back home, I met my son at the door and he said, Mom, I've got a problem. And I said, wow, somebody else's problem to focus on. Awesome. Let's do that. As moms, sometimes we would rather solve anybody's problem but our own. And so he said, I'm 15 and a half going into high school, and I'm too young to get a summer job, and I'm too old to go back to summer camp because I'm taller than all the camp counselors, and that's boring and stupid now that I'm 15, right? I said, okay, well, why don't we do this? You are never too young or too old to be an entrepreneur. Why don't we, you and I, build a business around what we love doing, what you love doing and what I love doing, and we'll just have fun with it. And that is when we created a business around his strengths and mine that we really enjoyed, things that we really enjoyed doing. And we created this audiobook narration business, which went gangbusters. We ended up having to teach other people how to be audiobook narrators, and we found that we loved teaching. And then we sort of grew this production company from there. And I mean, he really saved me, Mary Lou. It was when I realized I would never do a business again just because I was good at it. We are not here to do just the things we're good at. We are here to have fun and enjoy the journey of life. And that was a huge turning point for me. So that's probably when I got the call.
Wow. First of all, what a story. And thank you for being so granular about what you experienced, because I know there are listeners who, are in the golden handcuffs and still don't know how to get out. And so you are inspiring perhaps some of them to think, yeah, I'm done with this now, especially in the wake of the last 10 months as of this recording, with the pandemic still affecting so many people. And also, I loved that you were honest about, so you went off to be an entrepreneur and then discovered you built a golden jail cell, which that's a term I'd never heard. And that's what a small business can become, especially when you have that wake up one day and say, I don't really like this. And yet you've got people who depend on you. You're helping them put food on the table, keep a roof over their heads. And, you know, a woman's journey is so different from a man's. And thank you also for sharing how you discovered joy again through your son. I mean, that is miraculous in its own way, and also inspirational, because again, many people right now, I think, are looking in the mirror and asking themselves, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life? And if they don't even have that answer, they might even be asking, what do I want to do for the rest of my life? I know it's not this, whatever this may be. And I'm curious, I have a philosophy that no one who has succeeded in life has done it without the help of a coach or mentor. Could you tell us about your experiences, Kimberly, working with a coach or mentor to help you become as great as you are today?
Oh, well, thank you for that. And yes, I am a firm believer in having a coach or a mentor because we all have blind spots, things we cannot see when we're on the field playing, right? We're in the middle of it. We're feeling people are breathing down our necks, literally sometimes in the case of football, right? And trying to manage what we've got right in front of us. But the coach is on the sidelines and they can see what we can't see. And that is a really powerful perspective to add to your life. I have had multiple amazing mentors along the way, both at corporate and outside of corporate. I believe that, we can't see from all perspectives all at once, and being able to bounce ideas off of somebody who's either been there or can see from a larger perspective is extremely valuable. When I just recently did my TED Talk, I talked about being able to shift perspective and how powerful that is in being able to really evolve in your own world and evolve for the world as well, instead of just being sure that you're right about the one thing that you're right about right now.
True. Oh, I love that you said for the world, because that is why we show up. It's not just for ourselves, it's for the world. And congrats on your recent TED Talk. I remember getting an email about that. So how exciting to have that opportunity. And as you look into your crystal ball, Kimberly, I know none of us has one, but it's a fun question nonetheless. What do you predict is going to have the greatest impact on how we all show up to work in life over the next 5 or so years?
I think being in staffing, I remember and that was well before the pandemic. In fact, I've been a full-time entrepreneur for more than 8 years now. But I remember talking to large corporations and they would not even consider having employees work from home. Oh, no, we need them here. We need them in the facility. They need to work with other people. They need to bond. They need to see what's on our cork board, and whiteboard together. Like everything, every argument there could possibly be against it. And then when the pandemic hit and all of a sudden every corporation needed to continue to work but allow their employees to work from home, suddenly the shift happened and the eyes opened up like, wow, people really will do the work from home if we allow them to do that. And the same people who were good employees will be good employees no matter where they physically sit and who's watching over their shoulder. And I think that was a very, very powerful shift. Twitter announced that all of their employees would permanently have the ability to work from home very shortly after the pandemic began. And I think that's probably the biggest shift, having people be able to work from home from that perspective. And all of the other pieces that go to that. I mean, many of us have had parents or grandparents who were technology phobic. And when it came, they all figured out how to order groceries to their doorstep and how to do FaceTime with their grandkids and how to, Zoom calls to be able to take classes at the local adult school, and it really shifted the way that people are able to receive information. That's to the positive. To the negative, I feel like there probably will be some very human negatives that happen, including our lack of physical connection. I quoted Brené Brown earlier. She's got a TED Talk that I'm in love with, but she talks about human beings are hardwired for connection. And that is connection over Zoom, over podcasts, over webinars. Yes, but it is physical connection as well. And I think that, the children that were born during this and not being able to have every grandparent in the world pick them up and, and love on them, will really have an effect.
It's halftime here at the Play Your Position podcast, and we've got ourselves a great game. While you're up grabbing another snack and topping off your favorite beverage, make sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss another play. PYP is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever great podcasts can be found. Now, let's get back to the game.
The work from home transition is definitely huge. What do you see besides the connection piece? Is work from home for everyone, do you think?
It can be, right? Just like work is for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Decide that they don't want to work at all, right? There are people who are stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home dads, or work is just not right for them. Or for entrepreneurs, I'm not working in the corporate world. So working from home could be for many people, but does not have to be for everyone, just like nothing is. However, I do feel like there is a happy medium there. I have been an entrepreneur for 8 years, and I am one of the few who really, really believes that an office is a lovely thing to have away from your home. Be able to drive to the office and leave home behind so that you can get your head in the game, and then leave the office behind and drive home so that you can get your head in the game for home as well, is a very powerful physical geographic transition. And if you are working from home, that can also mean working from your pajamas on the couch and your kids running in having questions and, drama happening that mixes the two. And there's no real happy brain separation anymore. So I caution people against that.
Yeah. And I think kids are suffering as well because they need to be around their peers. They need to have that separation from home life in a place where they can figure some things out. And it will be interesting to look back on this time in our history and see what long-term effects may trickle down in terms of, everything from what you described about, newborn babies not getting their grandparents, picking them up, and holding them in that first year of life, to just the shift to people saying, yeah, all I have to do is wear my pajamas. And that is a boundary in its own way. Now, I work from home, and I've had lots of conversations with people like yourself who also are out on their own, and I get dressed for my work from home day. I put on my face, I do my hair, I put on clothes that I would wear out because it tells my brain that I am showing up in a different way. And there have the times when I'm sloppy, or what I call more casual, not that it's sloppy, but I have a hoodie, maybe yoga pants on. I just don't feel the same. I do not feel the same. And now some people may say, it doesn't matter. I feel the same, everything. That's great for them. For me and for other people I've talked to, it's a choice. And especially if you're going to be on Zoom calls, and I know this is audio only, but when you're going to be talking to somebody and seeing their face and seeing, obviously you don't see the whole body. And there's jokes about, now there's ads even that show people getting dressed on the upside and wearing their flannel pajama bottoms and fuzzy slippers on the bottom, because that's all that we see. It's just an interesting time. So yeah, the whole work from home and the boundaries are huge.
Yeah. And what you've described is almost similar to that geographical boundary. Being able to say, okay, I've done my hair, I've put my makeup on, I'm wearing my work clothes. That is that same body transition that is signaling, as you said, to your brain, I am at work now. This is a professional environment that I'm in. I'm sitting in this space, being able to be focused on work, and just making sure that you're drawing those boundaries. The other thing that I think is happening is people are not getting seen as much. That has been a passion of mine for 8 years as I work with entrepreneurs, helping them get seen and heard in a bigger way. I know that entrepreneurs often can say, well, I get all my business by referral, which means that it comes in their front door or their Zoom call or their email, right? But I'm a firm believer on getting on stages, getting out, seen and heard in a bigger way so that you can make an impact that is not necessarily your friends, but really a global effect. You made a comment to that, we're here for the world. We are here on this planet to make a contribution in some way. And if we stay small on our couch, waiting for the phone to ring, then we're not going to have the impact that we were brought here to make.
Yeah. So how have you pivoted to help people get on air quote stages when live events have been temporarily curtailed? So talk about the stages that people could pursue today during this restricted time of traveling and actually being in front of a live audience.
Well, I am a big fan of getting in front of one-to-many, and a lot of people talk about Zoom fatigue, but there are plenty of stages out there. There are networking events that all went online. I know churches that have gone online. I know, and many, many churches that have gone online. I know daycare centers that have gone online to be able to give interaction to people. So being able to be seen and heard in a group is a very powerful connector. And when you're an entrepreneur, getting seen and heard is very, very important. I believe that if you're not being seen, you're being overlooked. And if you're not being heard, your message isn't getting out there. And if you're not clear on your message, then it won't have the contribution you were supposed to make before you leave this earth. So there are stages that are podcasts just like this that are being consumed and gobbled up by the consumers right now, because this is a great way to get information without being able to visit a library, right? There are people who are doing networking events on Zoom. So podcasts, radio shows, TV shows, web summits, webinars. I host a quarterly web summit that puts 36 entrepreneurs on a stage to be able to share who they are and how they show up in the world. And that can be a very powerful way to leave an impact even when you're restricted in your travel.
Yeah. Wow, you're giving us a lot of food for thought. So thank you for that long list of possibilities for people who are listening who might be thinking, well, where would I even start? And so that's a great list. That's a great list.
So I will say that there are actually, we call them, the stages can be live even if they're virtual. So we have now started calling them in-person stages versus live stages, simply because this really is a live interaction between you and me, right? It will be virtual and it will not be in person when it is broadcast on a podcast. But right now we are in a live situation. We have summits and Zoom calls that are live happening, although they're virtual. But there are also in-person stages that are happening, COVID regulated, compliant stages that are happening in smaller groups. You can have a get together in some places with as many as 10, 15, 20, 45, 50 people. It usually caps at 50 people right now. But we do have a live stage event happening. The TEDx talk was a live stage event. We were capped at 45 people. And that happened in Las Vegas. We were COVID compliant. Everybody was wearing masks until we stood on the stage. There was social distancing that happened. Depending on where you are in the world, your restrictions may allow you to gather with social distancing and COVID compliant regulations. So consider that. I know that if you're in Canada right now, you're in a bubble and you really, really cannot go outside your family, but there are other places that do allow for that. So explore your area and see if you can have a COVID regulated get together where you can actually look somebody in the physical eyes.
Oh man, that sounds like such a luxury. I love that. Well, thank you for clarifying, because that may be something people want to explore. Yeah, it's such a strange time. But you know what's not strange, Kimberly, is when your favorite team scores the game-winning touchdown. So work with me here. I'm putting you in the red zone, and there are less than 30 seconds left on the clock. You are down by 4 points. It's third down, and it is now or never. Tell us a story about a time when you ran that metaphorical ball into the end zone for the game-winning touchdown.
I think that one of the things that I believe is that, you cannot do this alone. Somebody's passing you the ball, you're running with it, and then you're maybe taking the glory on the back end, but it's really a team effort. So whether it's your coach passing you the ball or you picking up your own courage and giving yourself the encouragement to believe and know that it's possible to be able to run across that end zone and be able to score the winning touchdown can be a very powerful effect, but it is a team effort, and the people in the stands are right there with us. So make sure that you're seen, heard, and not being overlooked. And then my last comment is be you, because first of all, everybody else is taken. And secondly,
I love that. Yes.
We need you to show up as you, because you're the only one on the planet that can do what you can do.
It's so true. And for people who'd like to learn more about you and your business, where can they find you online?
So I have a website called Entrepreneurs Rocket Fuel. That's entrepreneurs with an S, Rocket Fuel. And if you're interested in getting on stages, we would love for you to come and register as somebody that's either already ready to go as a speaker or somebody who wants to learn a little bit more about speaking opportunities. Or if you have your very own stage, like a podcast like Mary Lou Kayser does, if you would like to get guests for your stages, we have that as well.
Oh, it's fabulous. Before we say goodbye, Kimberly, tell us about a book you are either currently reading or have recently read that is a favorite.
Absolutely. So there is a book called by Jia Zhang, and you are going to make me forget the name of it, but it's called Rejection Proof. It's fantastic. Rejection Proof is a story about a young Asian man who wanted to learn more about sales, but was very, very, very nervous, very much an introvert. And he goes through this process of getting himself used to rejection so he can move into the world and allow rejection to happen without feeling like he's going to die and be able to move forward. And his idea is the more exposure he gives himself to rejection, the more comfortable he'll be. And he does 100 days of rejection, but by day 3 and 4, he's got a whole crowd cheering him on. He's able to take on much more than he thought he was even in the very first day. And it's just an inspirational story that will give you chills, that will bring tears to your eyes, and will give you hope.
Oh my gosh, I've never heard of that book. So thank you for sharing that. And team, you know that I will put the links to Kimberly's website as well as a link to this book on her show notes page at pyppodcast.com. And Kimberly, I am so proud of us today because we were with a little bit of a time crunch and you showed up and really gave us your best today. And I appreciate you and the work you do. Thank you for being a bright light for entrepreneurs who want to get their light out in a bigger way.
Well, thank you, Mary Lou. It was a pleasure being here. I love what you're doing for your community. And you are one of the few and far between that keeps it going and is out there showing the beacon and making it possible for other people to shine their light.
Hey team, Mary Lou here. Who's number one in football changes from year to year. Fashion trends come and go, same with musical tastes. But leadership skills, they never go out of style. In fact, these days, leadership is an essential survival skill for a world that demands more from us than ever before. To succeed these days, you need to know how to show up for yourself so that you can then do the work you love with people you like the way you want. The Play Your Position Leadership Playbook helps you do this, and it's free. Go to pyppodcast.com to download your copy today. If being more successful this year, next year, in the 21st century is on your to-do list, get your copy of the Play Your Position Leadership Playbook now. pyppodcast.com. It's at the top of the page. You can't miss it. That's pyppodcast.com and start being more of the leader you are meant to be today. This podcast was produced by Daniel Romeros. Show notes for this episode can be found over at pyppodcast.com. I'm Mary Lou Kaiser. Thanks for listening.
Got a great key offensive strategy you like to share? Write to us at coach@pyppodcast.com or on Twitter, use hashtag PYP and let us know how you're running your ball into the end zone for those game-winning touchdowns.